What is up, ladies and gentlemen? But most of all, you ladies out there, thanks for clicking on another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg. Celtics, Raptors. Let's talk about it. Split out! We just got done watching a very interesting night of NBA basketball. A lot of storylines, a lot to look at. Kawhi Leonard returned, hit a game winner against the Charlotte Hornets. Will he stay on the court? The Phoenix Suns are getting the break speed off of them by the Dallas Mavericks. Seems to be some sort of rivalry brewing there, and the Dallas Mavericks just have the Phoenix Suns number. Trae Young, we had some drama with him and Coach Nate McMillan earlier, and Trae Young kind of went at a reporter. Now that Trae Young plays terrible, they lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder, something to keep your eye on. That Atlanta Hawks team really seems to be in a bad spot with the trade rumors with John Collins. If Trae and the coach aren't working out, they're probably going to make a move here soon. So that's a big storyline to keep an eye on. But the game we want to talk about tonight is the Boston Celtics and the Toronto Raptors. This is an interesting basketball game because the Toronto Raptors are able to counter a lot of what the Boston Celtics do because the Toronto Raptors are so long, lanky, and it's almost like a rivalry in the sense that they played in the bubble a couple years ago. In that series, I can't remember if it went 6 or 7 games. It was a really tight series. A lot of those games were close, and so these two teams, when they play each other, it feels like they've played each other a lot. So we're going to break down a lot of what we saw in that game and a lot of what we saw from the Raptors. Because I've talked a lot about the Celtics on this podcast. Haven't spent a lot of time talking about the Raptors, some of the things they do well, some of the things that they struggle at. So we're going to break that down. First, please take a second to like and subscribe to the channel. You see how close we are to 600 subscribers. Hoping to get there soon in the next week or two. So if you could please help a brother out, hit that little button, would help me out a ton. Today I had to get a physical for work. I am glad to say that I passed. They said I am a physical specimen, unlike the world's ever seen. Herculean type physical traits, So just thought I'd share that with you in case you needed anyone to move your house or something like that. But let's get to the game at hand. The Boston Celtics won 116-110. Now, the Boston Celtics did not want to win this basketball game. The way that they played in the fourth quarter, they just would not close the door on the Toronto Raptors. The Celtics got out to a lead in the first quarter. Raptors played an excellent second quarter. Boston played great in the third. And it was a tight fourth quarter that the Raptors won by a little bit, but the Celtics ultimately ended up winning the basketball game. The turning point, like I said, that third quarter, the Celtics won 35-18. Now, Jayson Tatum again had another MVP-like performance, 31 points, 12 rebounds. Right now, according to Vegas and according to all the sports books, Jayson Tatum is in the lead for the MVP. So, something to keep an eye on. Can he keep that pace up? So, every game matters when you're in that MVP conversation because Giannis is coming. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic is coming. All these, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis may be coming. So, there are a lot of NBA players that are fighting for that MVP. So, you got to bring it every night. Jaylen Brown played good tonight at 22, 8, and 8. What I want to focus on is the Toronto Raptors, though, for a little bit. This is a very interesting basketball team with the way that they built their roster. They have a bunch of wings, a bunch of long wings that are good defensively, goodish offensively, but kind of have some limitations. Your team is predicated around Pascal Siakim, Fred VanVleet, Scottie Barnes coming up, and Gary Trent Jr. for three, from the three-point line. Chris Boucher is also really long, and they're just playing guy. OG Annunoby is a good three-point shooter, even though he didn't shoot good tonight. Now, the story a little bit of this Toronto Raptors team is they're 25th in the NBA in three-point percentage. They're also 25th in the NBA in three-point makes, meaning they don't hit a lot of threes, and they also don't shoot them at a very good percentage. So if you're a team that shoots a low volume of threes, what you want to be able to do is maybe dominate in the paint, dominate on the boards, dominate defensively. Now, they're a pretty good defensive team. They're a top 10 defense. I believe it was right around 8 or 9. So they're right around there. But you also want to be able to dominate inside or dominate in rebounding. And rebounding, they're really not a dominant rebounding team. They're right around 13 in rebounds. And then they don't have a true post player. So when you're playing with all these guys that should theoretically be able to shoot all right because they're all forwards, they're all guards, you'd like to see the Raptors shoot better than that, 25th in the NBA in three-point percentage. You'd like to see them uptick to a middle-of-the-pack three-point shooting team at least. At least. When you're a good defensive team, you can make up for a little lack of three-point shooting. But otherwise, what we're seeing from the Lakers is that they're a very poor three-point shooting team. But if Anthony Davis is going to dominate in the post, then you can kind of offset that. You can offset that. So that's what the Raptors need to figure out. They either need to get another guy that can shoot the ball well to increase that three-point percentage, or they need to get a guy that can actually dominate in the post. They're playing a little bit without a point guard. They lost Kyle Lowry a couple years back, and they haven't really been able to replace him. Fred VanVleet, I think, is a very good shooting guard. I don't think he's an elite point guard, in my opinion. And you kind of have Pascal Siakam playing that point forward role. Now, Pascal Siakam is a very good basketball player. Last year, he was third-team All-NBA. Absolutely deserved it. He's very good at basketball. He's averaging for the season 24, 9, and 7. He's very underrated and a guy that's not talked about enough. But he's asked to do a whole lot for this roster. He's asked to play make. He's asked to, create his own shots. And that's a lot to put on one man. A lot of times it's so important to have another playmaker, another distributor. That's what you look at. You kind of see the Dallas Mavericks struggling this year. They lost Jalen Brunson, and they lost one of their main playmakers. So it's so important for NBA teams to have multiple guys that can create offense. When you watched the NBA Finals last year, the Boston Celtics really struggled at having a guy, that could set up other people for good shots. Tatum and Brown, can kind of do it in stretches, but they're mostly trying to get themselves good shots, especially in the finals last year. They're trying to get themselves shots. And Marcus Smart, he's played very well this year, and I'm talking specifically in the finals, but the importance of having another ball handler, and that's why the Celtics brought in a Derek White. That's why they brought in a Malcolm Brogdon, another guy who can initiate the offense, get their guys in their spots, and play, a little better basketball. So that's what the Toronto Raptors need. They need a guy like that because offensively they're pretty lackluster. Defensively they're good enough. They're 12-12 though right now, and they are, let me get this pulled up real quick. They're right now the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, but they're only a game out of being the 11th seed. So you're in danger of being out of the play-in tournament. You're 5-5 in your last 10. You're 12-12 for the season. That's the perfect sum up of the Toronto Raptors. Some nights they look good. Some nights they don't look great. They're right in the middle of the pack. And in order for them to take a step forward, they need to make a move. And I don't know what that looks like. Do you try to trade for a Kevin Durant? Do you try to take one more flyer at that? Could you trade Scottie Barnes and do that? I know a lot of Raptors fans, I don't know if any Raptors fans are watching here, but I know a lot of Raptors fans don't like the idea of trading Scottie Barnes. They see him as someone that's in their long-term future, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But the Raptors got to make a move in order to really compete in the Eastern Conference, because they're never going to compete with the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, probably even the Cleveland Cavaliers with this current roster that they have right now. I want to talk briefly about the Boston Celtics because they're getting back in the win column after losing to the Miami Heat. I guess they beat the Nets yesterday too. But they lost to the Miami Heat, then beat the Nets and the Raptors. This Celtics team is very, very solid, and they come to play night after night because Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown are playing lights out basketball. But they're getting very valuable contribution from Blake Griffin, from Luke Cornett. Tonight, Blake Griffin had 13 points, 8 rebounds, and had some clutch plays. The thing that I worry most about the Boston Celtics, and it's been my concern for a while now, is that when closing time comes around, there are some guys in the NBA that are really good closers, and then there are some guys that are really good players, but not really good closers. Chris Middleton is a really good closer. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a great player, probably the best player in the NBA. But there's a little bit of a difference there. There's a little bit of when you need a bucket late, who's going to get it for you? And sometimes you feel like it's like Tatum can, And then sometimes he throws up such difficult shots in those moments. They will run such an ISO play, and it's like they want to have this awesome highlight reel game-winning shot, when sometimes you just would like to see us get a little easier look at the hoop. And so I think that's the key to the Celtics. Who's going to be able to close out tight games, because they're 0-3 in overtime this year. So when they're blowing people out, they're great. They're 20-5 for the season. But you've lost 3 games in overtime. So a lot of times when the game's close, the Celtics really, really struggle. So that's where you want to see the Celtics take that next step forward, because when you play in the playoffs, you're not blowing teams out a lot. You might blow them out for a game or two, but there's going to be some tight battles that you need to be able to win in those moments, and that's what the Celtics need to figure out. In those moments, in those clutch situations, who are they going to turn to? Who are they going to turn to? That's all we got as far as the game tonight. I think we might hop on here and do quarter season, analysis of some teams, some players, but we might do that here soon. But please please hit that little subscribe button. Would be greatly appreciated. Cyborg out.